Welcome to Pain with a Purpose, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of resilience, redemption, and purpose. I'm your host, Chris Woods, and each week we will sit down with guests who have faced challenges with substance abuse, mental health, and recovery. But we're not just dwelling on the past. Instead, we'll explore what keeps them driven towards a purposeful life. Join us as we navigate the journey from pain to a purpose. Welcome back to Pain with a Purpose. Season 1, episode 8, with Steve Brown.
What's up?
Really appreciate you making the trip out. Although it wasn't really a trip for you. This is right around the corner.
Yeah.
First time I've seen you since you left me high and dry in the gym, but we'll get into that. Yeah. So full disclosure, this is not the first time that we shot this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because like what you had to say or what I had to say was bad. It was just that I was still learning. We weren't in this room.
No.
The audio was not great, even though we were on these microphones and I was super excited to use these microphones, just didn't know how to use them. And the visuals or the video, if you will, was like cooked. It was bad. I think I put out like one reel, right? And like it was the best that I could do. And I was like, I kept looking into it and I was like, I can't do this, but I do appreciate you coming back out. Seriously.
Yeah.
So again, we'll get back into it, right? Where are you from? Like, where'd you grow up? The whole nine.
Sure. So originally from Montgomery County, first few years of my life in Narberth, and then majority of like growing up and everything, we moved out to like Chester County, like Exton area, about like 15, 20 minutes from here.
A couple of hours out there.
Nah.
Okay.
Finished grade school and high school all throughout there. And then the last, 10, 15 years kind of been back in that King of Prussia area, my adult life,
Okay.
I guess you could say.
So I know you fairly well, right?
A little bit.
I think we'll probably get into that as the episode goes on, really, right? But walk me through, or walk whoever's listening, could be one person, could be nobody, doesn't matter. Walk us through, what it looked like for you experiencing pain, right? Because like, obviously we're on Pain with a Purpose. I wouldn't just bring you out here if you just walk through life.
Yeah.
Not like anybody really does walk through life, but I think we might have walked quite a different path. What did that look like? How did you jump into, or how did you get into maybe struggling with drinking and drugging? When did it become very apparent? Because it was probably apparent to everybody around you.
Yeah.
When did it become like super apparent to you that like you probably needed to do something about this deal? Like how did you get to this point right now?
So where it started, right, is different from when I realized, right, like I might have a problem. Probably started back, 06, probably junior in high school.
You were a junior in high school in 06?
06, yeah. All right, you want to do this? Like that Kevin Hart thing? What am I?
No, I'm just saying. I mean,
Right.
I was in 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, like during high school, those typical, like normal, right? Like those normal years, drinking on the weekends, just hanging out, doing drugs socially. And it wasn't until probably midway through my junior year where like that switch, right, wasn't working anymore. The weekends wasn't cutting it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday wasn't enough.
But just drinking or smoking weed?
So just drinking and some cocaine. Those are my two biggest at the time. Got introduced to opiates a little bit later. Kind of like a late bloomer there.
Yeah.
But definitely booze. A lot of booze, man. Loved it. Put it in water bottles, mix it with Gatorade, whatever. And then kind of became a daily thing from like 06 until, first treatment summer of 09, summer 10.
So hold on, back up. So are you like an only child, or like, so were you doing all this like with older kids, or you doing this, you found all this stuff out by yourself that you were just like, I'm going to start drinking all the time, or what?
So growing up, I had two older brothers, but they were like significantly older than me, like 12, 13 year difference.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So kind of growing up, like I was like an only child. Right. And, just hanging out with people my age, people my grade, people growing up with, kind of drinking. But I always noticed like I was a little bit different in the sense that like I wanted to go. Like I didn't know.
There was no off switch. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I even at a young age, some of the kids I was hanging with or, partying with would have a few and then kind of shut it down. I wanted to keep that party going.
Yeah.
I didn't know my limit. I didn't have a limit. So like growing up, it wasn't like people my grade, probably people a year or two older than me, but wasn't like getting into trouble in the sense of like breaking the law. I was getting caught by my parents, of course, sure, right? But like no law or anything there. So to me, in my head, like I justified it at the time, like I'm just doing normal shit, right? Like this is what normal people do. Not realizing, nah, they're not doing that, right? They're not drinking on a Tuesday because we have school. They're not showing up impaired or intoxicated, right?
Now, at this point, were you drinking before school yet?
Yeah, so I would wake up. Pretty much my routine, like from junior year to senior year and on was like, wake up, take a swig, drink a beer or two as I'm getting ready, maybe in the shower, whatever it may be. And then before I'd leave, my ride would pick me up. And before they pick me up, I'd have, I'd be at, I lived with my brother at the time, be my brother's bar in his house, dumping 2 water bottles on the drain or a Gatorade, filling them up with booze and heading out the door.
Oh my God. You just gave me like a physical reaction, dude. The Gatorade shit was horrible. Like it didn't matter what was going in the Gatorade, right? I remember like for some reason in my house, I grew up with my mom and my grandparents. My grandfather, it was either my grandma didn't drink. So my grandfather always had Tanqueray. And like, I just always knew it as like the Christmas tree liquor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh dude, it was so bad.
So at that time, it was more of like any flavor Gatorade, right?
Mm-hmm.
With like Captain Morgan or like Seagram's dry gin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get the Christmas tree shit.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, and it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. But like, I didn't know it at the time. Like, it was horrible.
Yeah.
But I was absolutely drinking for effect. And I didn't know
1,000%.
I didn't know it. I mean, maybe I did, but I didn't recognize it like that, like drinking for effect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was absolutely drinking so like I could feel a certain way.
Sure.
Before. Now I didn't do it before school just because I didn't think about it. If I did, I probably absolutely would have.
Yeah.
But I was drinking by myself. Sophomore, junior, senior year in my room.
Oh yeah.
Alone.
Oh, I mean, that's how the night ended for me, or that's how the days would be, right? Because again, in my head, I'm normal, but people are going home, doing homework, doing whatever they are supposed to be doing, and then it's like, all right, I'm going to sit in my room, play video games, and get drink until I pass out, and repeat, right?
Which is crazy because like my life didn't really come like to a screeching halt until I like started really diving into the opiates. But like I always forget that I was drinking by myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, luckily you brought it up, right? Because who knows who's out there now, right? Like, because alcohol is still very much like acceptable.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, like we just sold the house, which thank you, right? You did a huge favor for my family, my mom, helping us move, right? But like all those liquor bottles that were in that cabinet, if they were still in there, were probably water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've been sober almost 10 years, but like they never, that liquor that was in there was probably in the house for years.
Yeah.
They just never touched it, Yeah, dude, that's wild.
Yeah.
So not to cut you off, but like, okay, so you were drinking, much like myself, you were drinking by yourself.
Yeah.
You're a junior and senior year.
Yeah.
Right? Then what happened?
Barely graduated high school, right? Out of high school, obviously didn't know what I wanted to do. Wasn't going to college, didn't have the grades or the motivation or anything. Just wanted to party, So I got into the restaurant business, started working in a restaurant where, drinking was socially acceptable between staff, whatever it may be. Definitely late nights drinking after. With the restaurant comes other substances, right? Cocaine, whatever you want. So it was like, all right, I'm now working at a place that like this is kind of acceptable and there's people there like me, right? So that's what I did from like late teens, from like graduating high school until early mid 20s. Whether it be bouncing from restaurant to restaurant or, sticking it out with, one or two. Moved in with one of my buddies in Manayunk.
Great area.
Yeah. I don't know, 18, 19. He drank just like I drank.
Yeah.
You know? But like did also like a lot of like couch surfing, man. Kind of just didn't know. Right at this point, my family didn't really want anything to do with me. Right, like I always had a home, but the rules were like, yo, you come back, you got to be sober and seek treatment. At the time, I'm like, yo, I'm like 19, 20, like this is what people do. So, you know, that lasted until it didn't. Right, and then that's when, like to your point, what you were talking about a minute ago, it's like play the tape. Right, like I hate that saying because I play the highlights.
Yeah,
right.
I play the good times.
Now, granted, there's not a lot of highlights, but there's a couple, right? So it's like when I play the tape, I play the good times. And unfortunately, those good times are like when I would play the tape would take me back out. And I realized soon, like, you know, quicker rather than later, that I was like, that's not that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I never played the tape through of like me 16 to 24 hours of not having anything in my body.
Yeah.
Right. And like crying at commercials because I'm that emotional. Because I don't want to continue living the way that I'm currently living.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if my mom's debit card was on the table, I'm taking it in a second. Yeah, I never play those.
No.
I never play those times. I play the times where like, see now, like you were like, you know, renting an apartment in Manayunk. So like you probably had some really good times. You did.
Yeah.
I never made, like I was like, my great times were like back at keg parties, right? Like my great times were when I was really young. By 21, I was absolutely fully addicted, right? To either one or multiple substances. By 18 in high school, I was fully addicted to opiates, right? After the fact, I started like really diving into other stuff, but
I also though too, like I didn't have house parties like that. Like I partied like that college kid in high school.
Yeah.
Right. Like I lived with my brother. My brother would travel, you know, with his wife, my nieces, his kids. And like, you know, the rule was don't break anything. And if you're going to drink anything, just don't drink it all and leave some for me. Right. Like those were the rules.
Yeah.
So I partied. Like, it's funny, like, and like, I'm not exaggerating, but like growing up watching like the American Pie movies, watching these movies, right? That like, dude, I'd have 30, 40 people in the house throwing down.
Chester County.
This is Montgomery County at the time. I'm living in King of Prussia.
KOP, I got to move my kids. That's how they were getting down?
Yeah. Dude, I had some epic parties. Yeah, man. We would get it. We would get after it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to move my kids. I guess it's anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's anywhere, right? And plus with generations nowadays, it ebbs and flows, man.
I mean, we've said it, right? Like, especially with like the gym culture. And I don't know if this is like an actual thing or not, right? But like, I feel like these kids are not really getting down like that. I mean, they are, but they aren't. So
it's easy for us to say because we're not affiliated with, right? Like there's a whole nother life, right? Because if you think about it, like how many people now do we run into at 2024? And like they get to know us, we just meet them, whatever, we tell them we're sober, tell them just a little bit of our story, and their like mind is blown, right? Like they don't even know that world exists. Mm-hmm. We've been so far removed from that world that to us it's like
I know, but doesn't it still feel like you just got sober?
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Like
I don't think there's been a day that's gone by since the first time I went into treatment. Many relapses, many heartache, many pain. But sitting here today with almost 7 years sober, I don't think a day has gone by that I don't think about it.
Not about like getting high.
No, like
think about like sobriety.
Yeah. Whether it's like my journey, how far I've come, or like, you know, when I have a bad day.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to be like, dude, this is the worst day ever. And then I think, dude, not too long ago.
I was crying.
You were in a bad spot.
I was crying at fucking commercials.
Yeah, right?
Keep trying to think about I keep trying to think, you know, the dog commercials?
Oh yeah.
With the every time, dude.
Yeah.
Every time. And they're sad commercials, but like I was like,
between what was it, like Alanis Morissette, the song and the dogs.
Oh yeah.
How do the film people I
don't know.
How are they not? But like to your point, those commercials, right? It's like play the tape and then you see these advertisements for booze and it's always some like gentleman dressed to the nines, right? Sitting at this fancy bar. Some pretty woman walks in, he orders a fancy martini or like whatever the drink he's promoting and he leaves in a dope ride, right? Like they paint you this picture. Have you ever had a night like that?
Side note, do you know that they're not allowed to actually drink in the commercial?
Yeah, it's like cigarettes. They never smoke like cigarettes.
When's the last time you've seen a cigarette commercial?
But like posters, cigarette posters, the cigarette's never in their mouth.
I didn't know that until somebody told me. But yeah. Yeah, I don't.
But they paint this picture that it's so cool and you're gonna have the best time of your life, which you might, right? Because there are there's normal people out there, but
for
then
one night, maybe,
or like an hour, right?
And what I'm failing to realize is like, no, like at the end of like if that's me, I'm not showering for a couple of days.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Brushing my teeth,
no,
out the window. Yeah, right. And
but in my head, you're killing it, right? Like you are that stud up there, and then you wake up the next day, or you finally come to a couple of days later, and your buddy or someone, or you're going through your text or your phone pictures, and you're like, oh, that was not what I pictured, right?
Yeah, and for anybody that like might be listening, that like might have just heard that comment about like me not showering or me not like, dude, like that's real stuff.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's where I go, and that's where my head fails to lead me if I'm really thinking about it like that, right? But like, not to get like too AA or too recovery, right? Because we're obviously here to talk about the pain and obviously talking about the purpose as well. But like, if I ever start to really think about stuff like that, like I've been in a bad spot for a long time.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's why a big part of like this is like, hey man, like getting sober is not a death sentence, right? Like I don't, even though we're talking about like, oh, it could be like a trigger, it triggers, you know what I mean? It could be us sitting here talking about it, or it could be like us like stubbing our toe, right? It could be anything or it could be nothing. And it really is a direct correlation on like how much work we actually did on ourselves. So I wanted to give that disclaimer, right? Because it's not all bad days. You know what I mean? We're not just sitting here like, I don't want to pick up a drink or a drug.
But at the same time, though, it's not all good days either, right? Like life is still
life's life, for sure. Right? We're going to talk about all that with your shit, because you've definitely been through some stuff. All right. So you alluded that you went to your first treatment in 2009.
Yeah, I think it was like summer of 2009 or summer 10.
Okay.
I was like 21.
And you're 20. How old are you now?
I'm sorry, what?
So you didn't stay sober your first treatment.
35.
So, all right. So I know, how many times did you go to treatment?
9, 10 times.
Okay. So let's fast forward to like 8.
Sure.
So you've been in and out of treatment for a number of years. And then you stayed sober for a little bit. I know that.
Yeah. So I know you want me at 8, right? But
wherever it was, yeah.
The first treatment, I knew I had a problem, right? Because like during, the high school days and everything, drinking, like my father was an alcoholic. He was able to get sober, but unfortunately never made it to the rooms. He ended up passing a few years ago due to like blood cancer or something like that. Yeah. But so the seed was planted. Like I knew I had a problem. I go to treatment for the first time, and like what they're saying makes sense. But at the same time, in my head, like I'm 21. So like I'm here to just get the people off my back, take a little dry spell, just get the heat off me, right? And then every relapse, right, coming, like I always had like that, like I always knew I was going to eventually drink again, at least drink, right? Maybe not do the extra stuff, but like drinking socially acceptable. I'm young, I'll figure it out. And then every relapse, I never fully got to enjoy it because I always knew it's not going to end well. But hey, we're here. Let's just see, right? I'm unique. I'm different. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you talk about like the relapses, dude. I never got fixated on one thing. I never got fixated on like, I'm going to drink again. It was always just like, I'm going to hold on until.
Well, I definitely had that reservation, right? Like,
Well, I mean, like drinking was definitely a big part of it for me, but it was like, dude, it didn't matter if it was opiates, if it didn't matter if it was Xanax, it didn't matter if it was weed or alcohol. I mean, there was definitely times when I left treatment where I was like, I'm just going to smoke Tree. Or it was like, I'm just going to drink, right? Or if I can just stay away. All right, I know I can't do the perks anymore. Definitely need to stay away from the Xanax.
Yeah.
Because I do like weird stuff when I'm on Xanax. But if I can stay away from this, that, or the third, and I can just do, like, that's insane to even think about. Like, if I can just give this part of my life up and just fixate on this, I'll be okay. There was time where I was smoking, I mean, I don't know what it's called now, but remember the Spice?
Yeah.
I was smoking that all the time. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. You know how bad that stuff smells?
That was stuff you get at the gas station, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 100% manic in my mom's house, my grandmom's house. Like,
like the hero that I am. Like, unbelievable. Just leaving treatment probably a month prior, right?
Yeah.
My mom walking in, she's like, what is that smell? I'm like, don't worry about it. It's at the gas station. It's fine. It's not weed.
Yeah.
It was probably worse.
Oh yeah. It was like
Scooby-
that synthetic stuff or whatever it
Scooby
was.
snacks.
Yeah, Scooby snacks.
Yeah.
It was more of the harder stuff. Weed, I probably, honest to God, dude, I probably smoked weed 5-6 times my whole life. It just wasn't my twist.
Yeah.
I would just get real paranoid, want to eat, and then just go to sleep.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I went through a weird phase where I was like, I was just a stoner.
yeah.
And I wasn't. I was just literally trying to force feed myself of being a stoner, thinking that I might be able to maintain if I just did that.
hmm
Right. And then I turned that into a full-time job where I'm smoking bowl packs, like to do anything. And it's like, that's no way to live. Right. I get that like medical marijuana is a thing now. Right. I'm not trying to like knock anybody's experience, but for me, man, like I needed something
Yeah.
to operate.
Yeah.
And like, that's no way to live. So anyway, we digress again. So you talked about the first time you went into treatment, dad was an alcoholic. Where are we at? I can't even.
So been
I'll probably
in
cut
and
you
out,
off
right?
again at some point.
And then you mentioned like how I had a little bit of sober time. I was able to get sober. So during that time span, right? Like I never went to the AA meeting, NA, never really did any of that, right? Until like 2016. You know, and after treatment, would always go back to my mom's and, you know, last a few months, couple weeks, and then it was right back, right? So 2016 comes around and go back to treatment. Mom comes in for the family session, and you know we're going over my aftercare plan. I'm like going back to mom's, and she was like, "Nah," and I was like, "Yeah,
It's not part of the plan, Mom. What do you mean?
yeah, right." And
then you're all pissed. Like, who talked to her?
yeah, right. And,
Who got her here?
But you know what? I did for like a quick second, but then I saw the pain, right? Like it clicked.
Mhm.
And I was like, "What do you want me to do?" And she was like, fortunately enough for me, a few of my buddies had gotten sober a few years before me. So while I was in there, she had reached out to a couple of my buddies. They suggested a recovery house. They were friends with the owner. Like, you know, let me see if there's a bed available and set it up. So she came in prepared, had the phone number for the guy who owned it. They had a bed. They were waiting for my call. And I didn't fight it. I did it. Completed treatment, went to this recovery house in Malvern, and that's where it got real, right? Like that's where I kind of got thrown into sobriety, recovery, AA, NA, whatever it was, right? You know, first time in a recovery house, I'm listening, like I have to do, like people are telling me what to do, how to live, showing me how to live. And I, you know, it's not like I went in there, all right, this is going to be awesome. Like, no, you know, the first day there, they're reading the rules and I'm like, yeah, all right, dude. Make my bed,
Yep.
cook dinner for 14 other dudes, or like, are you better fucking call a maid, right? But when I got there, I realized some of the dudes there had like 6, 7, 8, 9 months sober, right? So they had, you know, they had a good core dude. So it was kind of like you're either with it or get the fuck out. Like it was no bullshit.
Thank God for that.
Yo, for real,
Seriously,
dude, like that changed my life.
absolutely.
Like being in a recovery house and like being around other people and getting thrown and being like surrounded by it.
You were like the outcast. Well, I don't even know if you were allowed to stay, but like you were like the outcast. If you weren't going to, you were either going to get with it or get lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
1,000%. And that's how they operated. And, you know, it took me a couple weeks to get acclimated, right? And obviously, you know, I fell short multiple times, right? But they were patient enough with me. Like, luckily at the time, my shortcomings weren't enough to get me kicked out. Like I didn't relapse. I didn't break curfew. I didn't do the mandatory or break the mandatory stuff. Right. But, yeah, man, I got hooked up with a good group of guys there that really showed me how to live, how to become a man, you know, how to take care of responsibilities, how to showing me what action in a program looks like.
Yeah.
And,
shout out Wes Roller.
Shout out Wes, shout out Sam Sullivan.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy, Mark, shout out my buddy, Chris, you know, the list goes on and like, dude, it's wild. It's wild how everything changed after that.
So it's so wild how small the world is, right? Because we're talking about Chris from Malvern Men's, right?
Yeah.
So I met Chris in 2014, maybe. It was either 2014 or 2015. I don't know. But like, I remember Chris, right? Chris wasn't like super serious about his recovery at the time. And I don't know, this is my perception, right? Like he could have been stone cold serious about it. I don't know. But like, I do know that he didn't stay sober since then. And I know that like he eventually was there. And I remember seeing him when did I move to the area? Probably 2016.
Yeah.
And we show up at Malvern Men's, right? And he's there. Completely different person.
No, I think you were 2017. That's when me and you linked up.
Yeah. So 2017, and he's there, completely different person, right? And you can't tell me that this shit doesn't work.
So in 2016, I didn't meet Chris yet.
That's right. Okay.
So I got to this recovery house, right? Did what I had to do. End up, working my way up, became house manager. My life is thriving right at this point. Now, again, I'm fast tracking. Obviously, a lot of ebbs and flows in it, right? But end up moving out at 13 months sober with a sober buddy of mine who had a couple of years at the time. Grew up with him, one of my old time friends. Moved out to Coatesville. Towards the end, though, right? Like what they talk about, like my ego's growing. I've been through the steps. My life's on fire.
Yep.
Like in a good way, I'm thriving. Got a couple sponsees. Everything's good. Like I got this, right? So I move out of this recovery house thinking everything's going to be good. I'm still stopping in this recovery house just to hang with the boys, run spades, whatever it may be, take dudes to meetings.
Such a great time.
But then slowly, surely, 14 months, slowly, surely, I'm going once a week. 15 months, I'm going once a month. Right? I can't make it to the meeting tonight, fellas. I'm jammed up. I'm going to the gym or...
Then you show up the last time and you're like, I don't know anybody in here anymore.
Yeah.
You're
and
like,
then, yeah. And then...
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
I did the same. Listen, I did the same. Luckily, I didn't pick up, right? But I did the same thing. And again, that's like a true testament to the house because there was alumni that left the house that came back. You know what I mean? That really, for the new guy in the house, I remember when people did it for me when I was in there, it was like, this guy's got 2 years?
Yeah.
You left the house and you stayed sober. What? So again, my bad.
But yeah, so, slowly but surely, right? And I'm telling my sponsees what to do. I'm taking them through the steps. But now it's like the one, like, I'm calling my sponsor once a week, once a month, right? I'm slowly getting further away from the program, closer to the drink, closer to whatever it is, right? Like I'm telling you guys how to get sober and what you need to do.
Yeah.
When it comes for me to like check myself, I'm good, dude. I got this. I got 16 months sober, dude. I'm good.
Yep.
So slowly but surely, right? Like, so I pick up, just under 18 months. When I picked up on a Friday, I was in treatment Monday. Like it was like that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, those 3 days felt like
also
3 months.
Oh, absolutely. But also you got to kind of give credit where it is or give credit where credit's due, because if you weren't doing what you did for work at the time, right? Regardless of where you were working, but like what you were doing for work, who knows what that would have really turned into, and thank God for that, because, we know people that did pick up, right? And then that's how much like, I wouldn't even call it a stigma, but like how much the pride and ego really comes into play. Or like you pick up and like, no, I'm taking this to the grave with me, right? Or whatever the case may be. And next thing you know, like God forbid, but it happens, right? Like people pass away. So thank God for that.
Dude, and I don't know what clicked. Like I didn't give pushback. Like when my buddies called me, right? Like I come back to the house and my buddy just takes a look at me. I'm living at his house, right? And he knows from the rep.
Like, dude, you're crippled.
Yeah. And I'm like, nah, I'm good, dude. What do you mean?
So thank God that you were actually like doing what you were doing, right?
Yeah. Thank God I had the support around me, right? They knew right away, right? So, my roommate makes me call my sponsor. It was late at night. I think it was like a Friday night or something. So I met with him the next day. We sat down, like, yo, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, obviously I know what to do, right? So I'll go. So my work at the time was very supportive. I got honest. I didn't hide it from anyone. I owned it. And, I was back in treatment Monday. And, yeah, man, here we are.
So you went back into treatment. And that's kind of like where we didn't know it at the time, because we had we met because I always knew Steve Brown.
I knew the
Right.
name. I knew the name Chris Woods.
I knew Steve Brown. Scum. But no, I knew Steve Brown, right? And then we met, and then we hadn't talked for another whatever, right? So like, it was a weird time, but looking back on it, it was really cool, right? Because like full disclosure, I was like working an entry level job at a rehab. You had came into the rehab, and then I knew that you were my coworker. But at the end of the day, like I didn't know. I had somebody on the podcast, right, a few weeks back. Her name was Jess, and we talked about like training and ethics and all this stuff about like when you got a job working in treatment and like how serious we took it. You know what I mean? Because like it was a big deal, right? Like that was like the pinnacle for me. Like that was. It ties into a lot of this, right? Because like when you see life come full circle, I never really thought about it until we literally just started like landed on this topic right now. But much like when you were like the recovery house manager, when I was like the sober house manager, that was it. Like you couldn't tell me nothing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that was it for me. I had made it in life. I had made it in sobriety. I was Jesus at that point. Like I was walking on water, right? Not to downplay Jesus, but same thing like when I was an entry level tech position at a rehab. Couldn't tell me nothing, man. Like this was like my main goal, right? Like I remember being at a Miramont treatment center and looking up to some of these people, like being like, dude, like, yeah, you want to talk about like looking for a sponsor that like has what I want or whatever the case, whatever that saying is. Like I wanted what they had, you know? And really what it was is just like a stable job with multiple years sober. But whatever. So we met, you went into treatment. That's where we met. Then what, right? You got out of treatment and then
got out of treatment, went back to the recovery house. I just went, but it wasn't that easy. You know, I remember I was here for a few weeks and every day I would call him and he would just like hang up. Right.
This was the owner of the house?
Yeah. The owner of the house who, when I moved out, became my sponsor. You know, I remember my case manager here, or my case manager at the rehab at the time was like, yo, you got to look somewhere else. Like, nah, like I know this is a game you play. He's like, how bad do I want it? He would answer and just be like, we're full, click. Right. And, you know, and I'm still communicating with some of the guys on the inside and like, I know the game, whatever it is, like, how bad do you want it? So I called every day. And then finally, I think I left him a message saying like, yo, I'm discharging in 3 days. Like, just please answer the phone. You know, I call the next day, he answers, and, you know, he wanted me to fess up to a lot of things, right? Like he wanted to hear it in me, right? Cause I had been just full of shit, man. Like nothing's worse in sobriety, right? Like you were kind of saying, like feeling like you're Jesus, man, like being the recovery house manager, you know, even going through the steps, getting some sponsees, man, like all that good stuff comes, man, but that comes with like responsibility. Right. And, you know, being able to, you know, manage your emotions and kind of, you know, like handle these situations. And I was not prepared. I thought I was the biggest, baddest thing. And that wasn't the case.
So it brings up like a really interesting point. And I didn't know it at the time, but I don't know if you can relate to this. But so the recovery house that I went to, right, it was very much apparent that you had to do A, B, and C. To one, remain in the house, but also to remain sober. And also we very much believed in going to, I wouldn't say a certain fellowship, but doing sobriety or recovery a certain way.
Yeah.
And a lot of that consisted with going through the 12 steps, the way that Alcoholics Anonymous does it. And if you weren't doing it that way, you could still remain in the house, but you absolutely had to remain active in your recovery, right? So even if you were going to a different fellowship, you would know if someone was not, right?
Yeah. And the house I was in was pretty similar. You could go to any meeting you wanted, but if you wanted to count towards the house, it had to be a certain one. You have to have a certain sponsor. You could have 2 sponsors, one in each fellowship, but like only the one, for whatever reason, counted, right? Yeah. So like you had to fall in line.
And there's definitely, listen, I had Tyler on this show, right? He's a huge different fellowship guy, right? And respect the shit out of his recovery and everything. And he's about it, like for real. But like I always bust his balls on that's the NA
Of
stuff.
course,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And people might have their own thoughts on like, well, you know, like you don't have to do it that way. And it's like, okay, but listen, it absolutely worked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful for that process because if anyone's like me, I was very hard headed and like the stuff that I was being taught in the recovery house, like I had just disregarded for years. It's all stuff that I knew, but now it was like, you're either going to do this or you're going to somewhat be homeless. My sick head turns this into, now it's a competition, right? So now it's like, okay, this person got into the house 2 weeks prior and now they're passing me in the steps. Well, that can't happen. So now I need to go through 1, 2, and 3, write a 4th step, do a 5th step with a sponsor, right? And then like continue and like I wasn't having any experience, right? I was going through the work. The crazy thing is that I was sponsoring guys at the end of this, you know, and I didn't have any real experience. I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. And I was telling other people like what they should be doing also while living like a whole scumbag. So whatever, that was my experience, right? Because I too, much like yourself, like I went to a recovery house, stayed for like 10 months and then relapsed afterwards. Went back to the recovery house after being in a detox where my insurance wouldn't cover me for anything longer than detox. And I was like, yo man, like I need to come back. And they were like, same like much like yourself, like they wouldn't take people back unless they did a full treatment, right? And a lot of times it looks like 30 days. But for me, it was detoxing. You know what I mean? You got to figure it out. And I was like, yo, I'll stay on the couch, dude.
Yep.
And they're like, that's all we have.
Yeah.
So not to cut you off again, but like that's like what I turned it into. It was a competition. It wasn't like me actually trying to recreate my life. It was just like I had to stay one step ahead of everybody else.
So I think that's what it was like for me the first time I entered the recovery house because it was such a new world, right? It's like, oh, if this person's only been in the house for this long, I've been in like longer or shorter, or I see the guy I look up to and it's like, yo, I want to get that. Instead of just trusting the process and working at your own pace and trusting your sponsor, right? And like trusting the process, right? And, but the second time I went back, man, I was so humbled that like I didn't care.
Yep.
Right? Like, dude, that relapse was like the biggest blessing. Like it humbled the shit out of me. Going back to the same recovery house I was just managing, tail between my legs, right? Like starting at ground zero, now I'm in the intake, right? Like now it's like, dude, I have the worst chores. And like now they're even harder on me because I was such a, you know, like jerk off prior to leaving. So here I am, like, you know, and dude, it was like exactly what I needed, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yep. So how long did you stay in the recovery house the second time around?
6 months, 7 months. Stayed 6, 7 months.
And we missed a huge part of your life, right? So when you went back to the recovery house, right, were you already in a relationship or that didn't happen yet?
So it had just started. So prior to my relapse, I started dating someone who's now my wife. So she did see me sober and like, and everything. And, we had probably been together a couple months.
Okay.
So still kind of early on where it was like, when I relapsed, I was like, oh, she's gone, right? Like she's, you know, she's not dealing with this, right? Because she comes from, right, like her brother, you're right, like he's sober, but she's definitely not, you know, or she's definitely aware of, you know,
the struggles,
addictions.
And usually sees how it happens.
Exactly, right? So as soon as I relapsed and went back, I was like, oh yeah, dude, she's gone. But, you know, dude, she stuck it out and, you know, I was just open and honest about everything. Luckily, it wasn't, like I said, it was 3 days. Luckily, I didn't cause too much. Right. But yeah, so I was in the recovery house second time for about 6, 7 months. And then, me and her, you know, got our first place together, ended up moving in with her and, you know, the rest is history there. Yeah.
So we'll fast forward a bit, right? So she stuck by you for a good amount of time. You stayed sober. You said what, you're coming up on 7?
Yeah, it'll be 7 years in November.
Okay. I should know that.
Wild, bro.
I'm not good. I swear to God, it's not like I am not good. My wife's going to kill me for saying this, but I'm all about being transparent, like, especially here, because like we're no different, right? Than anybody that might ever see this, that might be struggling or whatever the case may be. Like, we're no different, right? We're just like talking about it on a public platform, but we still need to be active in our own recovery to stay on this side of things, right? But I am not good with dates and faces. I swear to God, I'm not. Dude, for the first like 3 years, I said that my daughters were born in March. They weren't, dude. They were born in May. Dude, like, I'm telling you, I think I'm getting more and more shot out as time goes on, but like, I'm just not good. I'm not good with it. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's like, that's, dude, like, even like directions, right? Like, remember like MapQuest?
Oh, yeah.
You could be able to, like, you would just know.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if I don't have this thing on,
Yeah.
I am screwed, dude. And I drive for a living. Like, I would be absolutely, if this thing ever shut down, if like somehow like this just disappeared, I'd never get back home. They're like, where are you? I'm like, I have no idea. Whatever. I digress again. So yeah, so you stayed sober, you've remained sober. Obviously you go to the gym?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know your way around the gym a little bit. And full disclosure, like you showed me my way around the gym. Forever grateful for that, because I'm a firm believer that like it helps me a ton with my mental health. And I'm a firm believer of like all things, you know what I mean? Mind, body, spirit, right? And like the body plays a huge part in it. I think if my body feels a certain way, like my head feels a certain way, right? And when there's a line, I'm a better person for it.
Yeah.
But I remember we were in the gym. We were going every single day for
Pretty
years
much.
at this point.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you came into the gym, and you were like, "Yo, dude, they found something." Right. So like, walk us into that. Right. And it's not like they found like some spiritual malady that they were able to figure out. Like they found, like, what did they find?
Yeah, man. So it was weird. It was like,
And if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, I get it. Right.
No,
But
we're
I think, a huge part of this, right, is like, dude, like recovery's not all
Yeah.
rainbows and sunshine. Right. Like some tough stuff is coming one way or another, and it's all about how we deal with it.
so I think it was like 4 years into sobriety. So I think it was like 2.5, 3 years ago. Just having like heart palpitations, you know, and I've always had that growing up. Like I've had to be on the heart monitor in high school, you know, and yeah, it just started happening for a few weeks. Couldn't sleep. You know, I remember I just had started a new job and like try to go to bed at like 9 p.m. and like I'm wide awake, sweating, heart going through the roof at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. I got to be at work at 6, 7 a.m. And it's like, I can't go to work. But I was like, but if I go to the hospital, they're just going to tell me stress, anxiety, which it probably is, right? So I put it off for a few weeks, and then there's just one night I couldn't take it anymore. So I wake my wife up, and I'm like, yo, we got to go to the hospital. And she's like, what? Like, what's going on? I'm like, nah, I don't know. Like, I'm talking like drenched in sweat, having to shower again because I couldn't. And it was only when I laid down. When I stand up, I'm good. But when I just got...
Did you take Omega Sanction?
I was, yes.
Okay. So it could have been that.
But I was taking it at 5 p.m.
Okay.
So
For those that don't know, there's a pre-workout out there. It's called Omega Sanction. The only reason I bring it up is, one, our good buddy Johnny, right, is a co-owner of the company that makes it, right? Shout out Philly Gaines, shout out Alpha Flight Nutrition. But there's another reason why I brought it up, because you played a joke on me the one time,
yeah.
and you were like, yeah. I was like, how much did you take? You take a full scoop, half scoop? Took a full scoop. Don't worry about it. I take a full, regular, hefty scoop. I get done our workout. I'm still on the couch. And I'm like, Steve, I had to FaceTime you.
Yeah.
I thought I was
You were dripping,
sweating
yeah.
on the couch. Great product.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry.
So yeah, it's like, you know, 2, 3 a.m.
Talking about something serious. I'm just like, yeah, well,
No, you're
good time to talk about.
So it's like 2, 3 a.m. I go to, you know, Bryn Mawr Hospital and, you know, go to the ER and, you know, I'm telling them chest pains, heart palpitations. They hook me up to an EKG, obviously start doing their tests. You know, they bring me right back. Tests look good. Everything, you know, kind of checked out. Heart rate was high. So I'm there for a few hours. They discharged me at like 6:37. I get home. I remember like, yeah, I'm just going to shower and go to bed. Like I had called work. They were cool. Like they got it. And I get out of the shower and it's like 7:30, 7:45 and my phone's ringing from Bryn Mawr and I answer it. And I'll never forget like the nurse's voice. Yeah. Something was up. Like it was like it was almost like her like lip was quivering. She's like, Mr. Brown, you know, I need you to come back. We got your results. Or the overnight team, like I guess the people that come in, like the normal 9-to-5ers, come in and they double check everything that came in from the previous night. And they took a scan of my chest, and part of my chest, or the scan, was a little bit lower. Thank God, where I got like part of my abdomen. And she's like, we think we might have found something. And like, I'll never forget her being like just like this, like, I don't know, like it may be a tumor. Like, I'll never forget, like, and I was like, wait a second, what?
We're not going to just breeze over that, hun.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, are you sure you got, like, I'm like repeating my name, my date of birth, my social, like, are you sure? And she's like, yes, can you please come back? So I'm like, yeah. So I tell my wife, she's obviously, going crazy. We go back, they do a full scan. Turns out I had this like watermelon-sized tumor in my stomach.
Yeah.
Which was, and like, mind you, like I went in for my chest and heart, like, or like, yeah, my chest and heart. Like I had no pain in my stomach. I had no symptoms. And a month later, I had surgery.
You would think that we would have figured something out because we were working out heavy every single day.
Every day.
No symptoms of it whatsoever.
No symptoms. I mean, every once in a while I felt a little bit bloated, but I also drank a lot of those like bubbly waters.
Yeah.
So I just figured, it's just carbonation. But they would like push on my stomach, no pain, no nothing. That was kind of wild when they diagnosed that. Now it was benign,
Thank
so
God.
yeah. But I had surgery a month later. I got a second opinion, so I ended up going to Fox Chase. But that was like one of my biggest fears in sobriety. Like getting sober was like, God forbid I hurt myself, or like I have to.
What if I'm in serious pain?
Yeah, and like I have to like make that decision, or like we don't have a choice. You have to take these.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, I kind of got that going through my head, like, oh shit, like my biggest fear is coming to light now, right? Like there's no way around it now. I'm fully transparent with the medical staff. Listen, I'm in recovery. I struggle with opioids, booze, whatever it is. Just want to throw it out there. And they were like, I appreciate it, but you do know this is, there's kind of no way around this. Like, I get it. I just want to make you aware. And,
I don't think we got it, bud. I'm dead serious. Like we really, and maybe you subconsciously were downplaying it, but like I was fully on your like team. Like he's going in, we're getting this stuff done. He's going to be out. And that's that.
So I wasn't downplaying it. I truly, you gotta remember though, like I'm so plugged into the program, right? So like once I get this diagnosis, right? Like I'm going to my home group, I'm calling my supports, I'm telling them, I'm talking about it, even though I don't want to talk about it, right? Something like that. I was taught you got to talk about it, right? So I'm doing that, being full transparent. And like, it's funny, like when I see people, like myself, right? Or people like us, life throws them a curveball. And like, I have a way to deal with it, right? Because I have a program, I have support. Now my family, when this diagnosis came through, they were running around with their, heads cut off, like how, like, freaking out. And I remember my wife and my mom being like, how are you so calm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you? And the only thing I could really say is like, because I have a program. Like
it's
I
almost
have
like that. And whether you know it at the time or not, it's like, it's just faith.
Yeah.
Right. Faith that like,
it is what it is, right? Like,
even if I kick the bucket, it is what it is. Right. But like, not really thinking about it like that, but it's like, I got faith that it's all going to work out one way or another.
Now, I remember, and like my medical staff, like shout out Fox Chase,
We'll tag them.
Yeah.
We'll tag them.
Tag them. Dr. Smaldone, I got you.
Mm-hmm. Wait. Again, dude, I'm telling you, I got the worst ADD. I think it's getting worse.
Yeah, dude, you can't focus, right? So
Chauncey's going to kill me. If you like what we're saying, follow us on Instagram, Pain W Purpose.
You picked the worst times to do this.
I know. I am the worst. It's like a reoccurring thing too.
Yeah.
Pain W Purpose, Apple, Spotify, Pain with a Purpose podcast. You were saying.
So yeah, like shout out the medical staff at Fox Chase, man. They were very transparent, which I, respected. They didn't beat around the bush. I just remember them saying like, because of the size of it, right? Like it was very vascular. They kept saying like you may lose a lot of blood.
They did say that.
Every phone call, everything, they always said it. And I remember my wife telling me one day, like I'm on the phone with the doctor on my way home. I think we were running errands or something, and my wife like whispered, like, why do they always say that? So I asked him, and he was like, it's very vascular, blah, blah, blah. So like, I don't think I downplayed it, because when the surgery happened and like I finally came to, I realized like, oh fuck, like this is going to be a battle, right? Like, so I definitely wasn't as prepared as I probably should have been. And I don't know if that's just me being naive or just like,
That might have been the best case scenario.
yeah,
'Cause
probably.
You might have been worked up.
Yeah. Cause it was definitely way harder than I thought. Like I remember like finally coming to and like being like I couldn't move.
Mhm.
And the pain that I was in, like I just figured with modern medicine now, it's just gonna be bing bang boom, you're out.
Well, that's kind of what I thought too, until you went in the morning of, right? And I was like, okay, Steve's having the procedure today. I remember texting Jamie in the morning, I think. Or maybe I didn't.
Probably a lot of people reached out, but we also had to be there by like 6 a.m. It was
I just
like crazy.
remember, like, you know, much like anybody else, right? Like life gets busy, right? The day went by and it was like 5 p.m. and I'm like, where the fuck's Steve?
Yeah.
Like, why haven't I heard anything? So I reach out to you, nothing. Hour goes by. I'm like, I'm going to text Jamie. I'm like, hey, how's he doing? She's like, he's still under. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So, yeah. So the day of surgery, we get there, and this is after COVID, though, right? So, mind you, this is like the 22. Yeah, because you got married in 21. So, this is 22. So, this is like, you know, you still had to mask up still at the hospitals, but like COVID's over, to say. And, you know, we're there, we sign in, and it was like quick. They're like, all right, hug, you know, say your goodbyes. I'm like, oh, like we're going now. And they're like, oh, yeah. So they bring me back, but they had a pre-surgery. So because it was so vascular, they wanted to bring me in first and try to like snip or burn some of the like veins to like see if it, you know, would, you know, lessen the blood or like the chance of bleeding out or whatever. So like that was weird because like you're still conscious and like they just numb you and they come in through my groin, like my thigh. I'm laying there. They asked me to pick music. They're like, hey, do you listen to music? And I was like,
you should ask.
And they're like, what do you want to listen to? Anything. And I was like, what do you mean by anything? Like, you got any Meek Mill on this joint? Like, we got a rap station for you. So I'm laying there looking up at this screen. Now they numb me and I can't move. And I'm watching them in my stomach, like on this screen as I'm laying on my back. And we're talking sports and we're having a good time. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is a breeze.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're done, like, all right, we did our best. I don't know if it's going to do anything. And I was like, surgery's over. I was like, oh, no. This was just like pre-surgery. They're like, you got to lay still for 2 hours because you have to clot. Like, you can't move. I was like, all right. So they bring me in a recovery room. And the nurse comes, she's like, do you need anything? I was like, no. I was like, can you bring my wife and my mom in? They're like, no. So from 7 to 10 a.m., right? Like I'm just sitting there by myself. And I'm like, you can't. I was like, but I'm not in surgery. This is like a recovery. Like bring them in. They're like, nope. So I didn't see them the whole day. So I finally go back for surgery. What? It was, forget, Friday, Saturday?
I have no idea. It was a Friday.
Was it Friday?
I think so. I remember because I was working.
Yeah. So Friday comes, you know, I finally get the surgery. Again, this was told to me. I had like, I don't know, 10, 12 blood transfusions. I didn't come to until Monday, Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So when I come to, I'm thinking it's still, you know, and that was wild when I realized like, dude, surgery was like 2-3 days ago. Dude.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that magnitude of it. And then the whole recovery process, being in the hospital for that week and a half, you know, kind of like rehab or trying to move again. And I definitely downplayed that. I was like, oh shit, like this is going to suck. Like, this is going to take some work.
Yeah. I just remember hearing like the number of blood transfusions you had. And I was like, we almost lost them.
I think I went out, they started surgery like 10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
They didn't wrap until like 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in ICU for like 2 days apparently or something like that.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, we definitely didn't know what you were walking into.
Yeah, that was wild.
Did they say it was, I mean, whatever.
No.
Whatever.
I was supposed to get genetic testing. I just never followed through just because it was benign.
No, I was going to say, did they say there was complications or like that was just like, it was that intensive that like, that's how.
It was that intense. Like it was like,
because it was.
I don't think they were prepared as like,
Yeah.
I lost a lot of blood. So it was more of just like controlling that. It wasn't hard. It was easy to remove it. It was just stopping the blood. That was, from my understanding, what was taking so long. And they would come out every couple hours and like, we're doing another one, or like, he's still bleeding. But yeah, I mean, my poor mom and wife, dude. And they sat there the whole time, apparently. Like, didn't leave until they heard the surgery was done. I was sewn back up in ICU, and then I think they went home at 11 p.m. that night. It was just like, whew. Yeah.
All right, so we got through that, thank God. And then I remember you getting back home, man, and before you stopped, touched on your biggest fear when you got sober, right? It was our fear too. You know what I mean? Jamie texted me at one point, and she was like, "Hey, check on your boy."
Yeah.
Right? And we had already been talking, frequently. And I remember the text coming out of nowhere, check on your boy. And I don't know at what point it was. I don't think it was because you were intoxicated or by any means, right? But it was I think you were having a bad day. And you were probably down in the dumps.
So first off, shout out to everyone like yourself who just showed support.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't realize how much I needed that. Right? So being posted up on the couch, needing my wife to carry she's 5 foot, 100 pounds.
Yeah.
To pick me up, carry me to the bathroom, carry me,
You're 5 foot, 100 pounds too, though, so. Well, at the time you were. I mean, after surgery, I remember how much weight you lost.
Yeah.
Right?
I went on the table at 203.
Yeah.
But shout out to the people, obviously my family, you, Wes, the people showing up, whether it was just to bring me lunch or talk to me, that was also that showed me the power of the program too, right? You build these relationships and it's all good, but then you see you see someone that you care about, right? Go through something, and then you just see the love. And it's the little stuff, man. Just the text, "Hey, how you doing today?" Or you're taking time out of your workday to come make sure I'm okay, whether it's to bring me lunch, sit with me, and just be "Yo, man, I'm here," sitting there for an hour, I'm not the most social, right? So
yeah.
But those little things, that definitely got me through it, and definitely motivated me and brought me up. Because there would be times too, I remember when Wes would come, or my family would come, I wouldn't say anything, right? I don't want people to see me like this, and two, I'm just in my own head, I don't want to socialize, I don't want to do stuff, but having those moments were huge, right? And then fast forward to how addiction plays mind tricks. I didn't think I was going to withdraw, so they sent me home with everything, right? So I thought because my body needed it, I was going to process a different way.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end. It's 2 weeks, and I run out. I remember waking up at 2, 3 in the morning, shivering, right? In it. I remember holy shit, 4 years sober, and here I am.
Yeah.
I remember texting my surgeon a dope fiend at 3 in the morning. "Hey, man.
Hey, you up?"
You up? For real. And you know what? He was.
Yeah.
And that was a blessing, just someone to talk to. "Hey, man, what's up?" And I was "Yo, I'm out. And I'm in a bad spot."
Yeah.
And it's "Yo, listen, our nursing staff gets in, hold out till 6. Well, they'll write you another script. No problem. I'll approve it." I remember being "Dude, I don't know." And he's "Well, what's your pain at?" I was "I'm going to be honest, doc. I don't know if it's pain, withdrawal, mixture of both. I don't know."
Yeah.
And then I remember, the doctors called me back, and my wife's sitting with me, and that's where it was I think she had texted a couple people then, "Yo, check in," because I was I was in a bad spot, man. I was
yeah, mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just thank God people reached out, showed up or whatever, because it definitely could have went left real quick. And it was, but you know what? We got through it, man. And yeah, hopefully never again.
We definitely got through it. And then we almost threw you right back into it. So we were back in the gym.
Back in the gym.
What?
Bro, I thought I was
too soon.
Wolverine.
So if we did tag, when we tag Fox Chase, hopefully they don't see this part.
They know because I had to go back.
Yeah, they were like, "You're lifting what?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember us being on the bench, dude.
I think I was 6 weeks out.
Full disclosure, I thought I was helping you.
Yeah, all right, Bob.
I really did. I was like, "You need to lock in."
Yeah.
I thought I was pushing you to get back where you needed to be. And we ended up
So for
popping
those
it.
who don't know, it's my first day back to the gym. I told him, let's take it easy. You know, he decides to do a chest day. I'm like, all right, we get on the incline bench. I'm cool with 135. That's definitely way more than I should be doing. Woods wanted me to lock in through 225 on the rack. It comes down
You
to
you got it up though.
Yeah, at what cost?
We just popped a stitch or
Yeah,
two,
we just popped a stitch. But yeah, I remember going to the doctor or the hospital that day when I called and told him. And yeah, that he made me shut it down for another like eight weeks.
Yeah. Whatever, man. You know what? If that was the pain that you had to go through for your mental health at the time, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know? Smartest thing that we have ever done? Probably not. But did you just hear that?
Yeah, you gotta eat something, bud.
We have been talking for a while.
You gotta eat something.
So yeah, not the smartest thing we ever did, but I'm also a big proponent of like whatever, like mental health. You know what I mean? It probably, you needed to be there, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you probably just needed to be in that environment. You know what I mean? Like at the gym, you know? Some people might think that that's so completely far left, but people like you and I, like that plays a huge part in our
I remember
mental
trying to
health.
convince my wife, like, yo, let me just walk on the treadmill. I just need to be in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just sit here on the couch for another day, another minute, another hour. I was like, you know, but of course, like, you're not just going to walk on the treadmill. I was like, I swear, I was like, come with me. I was like, I just need scenery. Like, I need to like move. I need to.
Well, much like recovery, right? Because this is a huge part in our life and we can definitely talk about it. Like that type of gym that we go to, right? Even like those type of people in our lives, right? Like Johnny Gaines, right? Philly Gaines, you know, the Donnies of the world, like, you know, like Joey Nova, right? We'll probably never see him in person ever again, right?
No.
We'll have a whole other episode on the reason why we say that. So happy for you to be a father, and moving. We'll never see him again.
Yeah, you selfish prick.
But much like recovery and like the recovery house, right? Like everybody was going towards one common goal, right? Of like remaining sober, right? And like rebuilding their life, right? Just like the gyms that we go to, everybody's going to the same purpose. Everybody's working their ass off. Everybody's nice. There's this huge conception that like, if you're big or you're muscular or you're in the gym or if you go every day, like, you know, you're judgmental. It's not the case.
No.
It's not the case at all.
Some of the nicest people I've ever met came from the gym.
Yeah, I mean, like that completely revolutionized my life, really. Okay. Where do we want to go from here? Because we have been talking for a while, but there's still a lot that we need to talk about. Let's talk about current, right? So you got married. We breezed over that, right? I mean, we could have Jamie Brown on here to talk about her pain of dealing with you.
Yeah.
But instead of that, you're coming up on a huge milestone coming, you know.
Yeah, man. That's like, it's wild. Like being married, right, is a huge accomplishment in itself. Something I never thought I'd be attained, right? Like, not like, just wasn't for me. I wasn't probably worthy, or I just didn't think it was in my cards, right? And now, you know, fast forward, you know, my wife is like 30 weeks pregnant, which is like unreal. And time's been like flying.
Yeah. And dealing with you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you thought that I was not going to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up.
What's that?
You got a problem with Barbasol.
Yeah.
So your pregnant wife goes out and is, you know, the most selfless person I think I've ever met. And she goes out and she's like, you know what? I'm going to hook him up.
We're still
like, yeah, we're still doing this. Because she never got to see the real public apology. I just think it's funny, right? Because it's like it's you to a T, right? Like you're one of the nicest dudes I know for sure, but absolutely a short circuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
like at the weirdest times.
Yeah, and that's something that like we still like even the other day.
I'm sure you are laughing about it now.
Yeah. So like I guess the story goes, I have sensitive skin. Mm-hmm. When I shave, you know, I like certain
sensitive feelings too.
Yeah. And You know, my wife went to the grocery store the day before, forgot a couple items Monday, and she's like, hey, I'm running to Target or whatever it may be. Do you need anything? I was like, yeah, grab, you know, shaving cream. You know what I like? I remember saying that. She was like, yeah, I know. I was like, okay. And I must have been having a bad day, right? Because I don't like freak out on my wife. I don't, you know. She comes home, and I was like, yo, did you get everything? She was like, yeah. And I go to open the bag, and I see a can of Barbasol. And it wasn't so much it was, right? Like the Barbasol got me. But when I looked back down at it, there was a thin line of dust. And that just set me off.
Shit hasn't been touched in years.
Yeah, right? Like, you said you knew what I like. You came home with fucking, like, what am I, 75 years old?
Mm-hmm. Isn't the moral of the story, regardless of how you react, and slammed it on the whatever?
Yeah, so I say
it was a
that.
joke, right? Didn't she already have, like, she had the stuff that you like?
No.
Wait, where?
I had obviously ran out. That's why she went and got me.
No, I know, but maybe I just made that up in my head. I thought she was playing a joke on you.
No.
All right, we'll edit that out.
No, yeah, so there was no joke, but like she's like, at the time, she was in the kitchen doing something, and I'm like talking to her, and I'm like obviously upset, and she's like laughing, and that's just adding fuel to the fire, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not that deep, and the reason, I don't know to this day why I made it so much bigger than it had to be. And when between her laughing and then me looking back down and seeing the thin line of dust, I just absolutely lost it. And, you know, told her she was an idiot and slammed the can in the kitchen. It exploded everywhere.
Epic anger moment.
Now I'm even more pissed and like upset. She's looking at me like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I just grabbed my gym stuff and roll.
Yeah. Woman is however many weeks pregnant with your child, working on her. She's working to be is it a PA, or she's going to be a psych nurse, or?
Yeah, a
full-time student.
MP, yeah.
Full-time employee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here you go. And taking my toy and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there, dude. And she might not get it. I get it. You know what I mean? But like, it's tough, dude.
Yeah.
You
it was just obviously bad day on my part.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, you did not deserve that. I apologize. I love you very much. Very grateful of you and everything you do for us, and especially for me. I apologize, and I'll be better. I promise. I will be better.
I mean, we would just be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't bring up that story, because it's classic. All right, so now fast forward, she's 30 weeks pregnant, and you're about to, your whole life is going to change in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Boy, girl?
Boy. Having a boy. Yeah, it was, we had the baby shower this past weekend.
Wait, did you guys decide on a name?
Yes.
Is it a secret?
Yes.
Okay, so we can't say it here.
No, but at the same time, we have a name, but we're still kind of brainstorming a little bit. But we do have a name. But yeah, we had the baby shower this past weekend. It was awesome. And I come home today, and my wife's in, I guess they call it like that nesting phase, where she's
a very real thing,
cleaning and making sure everything is perfect. So like the whole nursery's done.
Yep.
So I came home today, and like, you know, a lot of the things that we got from the shower were all set up. You know, we already had the crib and dresser, so that had been set up like a month prior. We got the chair, you know, she got a little bookshelf. She washed all the clothes, started hanging them. And it was like, I think this is the first time since I found out she was pregnant that it was like walking into that room today was like, holy shit.
Oh, it's about to get so much more real for you, bud.
But it's weird, right? Because it's like an excitement too. Like, I'm not nervous in the sense that like what the fuck am I going to do? I'm sure once the kid comes, it's like, wait a second.
So I didn't have
that. Right now, it's just that excitement of like, yo, like, let's go. Like,
because she's 30 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the nervousness didn't come from me until I was in the room. Obviously, I have twins, right?
Yeah.
Until I'm in the room with my twins and myself. That's it. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, what do I do? Yeah. And it turns out that, you want to talk about like being present in the moment, right? And like being able to feel absolutely everything. That moment is like, you can't put a price on that.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're sitting here on a podcast called Pain with a Purpose, right? And like, it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's so much deeper. All I wanted to do was just stop withdrawing, you know? And now, like, your purpose in the next, give or take 10 weeks, is about to be completely transformed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm trying my best to not get worked up about it.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think my biggest thing too, like I'm still such in like a routine
oh yeah.
that like, and I'm still like, it's kind of like early sobriety. Like I remember like in early sobriety, if you threw me off my routine, I get jammed up real quick and like it really like, yeah, jammed up, like whether it be anxious, nervous, like angry, like, you know, normally I do this at this time, you know, what am I supposed to do now? Or like, yo, like I was going to do this, now I can, like you said, the next few weeks, it's going to be a whole.
So I'll probably really regret saying this. But again, I'm all about being transparent. I really shouldn't say this, but now I'm going to publicly say that I know this information. But the next, once the baby comes, right? Like it's all about just like putting her head at ease. You know what I mean? Like you're just there to pick up the pieces wherever you can.
Yeah.
Right. I know I don't do the best job. But I try my best. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like one of the most beautiful things you'll ever experience. It is the most beautiful thing
I'm
you'll
sure.
ever experience in your life.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't look beautiful most times in the dark times. But it is, dude. You know, like people will say to you, like, oh dude, like enjoy it now while they're, you know, and it's like, what? We're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Dude, to have our babies back to like that. Oh my God. I can't wait.
Yeah. No, dude, I know we're both super excited, super pumped. Obviously it's like nerve wracking, but at the same time, it's like that excitement that like, let's go.
Yeah. So with all of that, obviously your purpose is about to change.
Yeah.
Kind of aside from that though, like how have you been able to like change or segue like all the pain that you've gone through up until this point into somewhat of a purpose? And I think a lot of it might be subconscious for you, but I think it's really about like how you like kind of carry yourself as a person. How have you seen that kind of like shine in your life?
I don't know, like going back to that, like, you know, like that last relapse, like I said, like that really humbled me. Like I know coming back this time when I hooked up with a new sponsor, you know, 3 things he told me was, you know, don't like, remember where you came from, pray, always mess up the third one. Remember where you came from. I'm pretty sure it's be humble and pray. And, that's like the 3 things I really try to like, that I try to like carry or like remember, right? Like I pride myself on like one of the things I go by, and I forget, I think I probably heard it in a meeting somewhere, was like, I'd rather hurt you with the truth than kill you with lies. So I try to, you know, just be the best version of me, man. And I'm not ashamed from, you know, where I came from, right?
Yeah.
Like it's funny because like when I was out there, it was like getting called an alcoholic. Like I used to wear that as like a badge of honor, right? It was kind of like, oh, I drink like the old heads, like that's cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like I just, like I don't know everything. No matter how much time I get, how long I stay sober, like I don't know. I just know if I go to meetings, I talk to a sponsor, and I try to help someone, like I have a shot. And that's what I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really what I do. And I stay plugged in. Like there's not one person other than like a couple family members that aren't sober.
It's pretty crazy, right?
Unreal.
When you think about it, when you think about like going in and out of treatment, you're like, what about my boys?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you still talk to like maybe 1 or 2.
Sure.
But for me, I have like 1 or 2 that I gained in my recovery that are not in sobriety, if you will.
Yeah.
which are awesome. Like I never thought I'd be able to even build a relationship with somebody outside of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember like going in and out of treatment and being like, what about my boys?
Yeah.
My boys, we talked about it. I was a junior and senior in high school drinking by myself. I didn't have no boys really.
Yeah, right.
Now you fast forward and you had the same experience, right? Like you got married in sobriety, right? Like the majority of the people in my wedding were from
It's like everything I thought, and like I know we've talked about this before. I'm pretty sure some of the guests have mentioned it too. It's like all the shit that I thought was corny, like I'm doing.
And you just don't even know you're doing it. It's subconscious at this point. Yep.
Right? Like even like as I grow up, right? And like, you know, like being a husband, about to be a father, be more present as an uncle, as a brother, as a son, right? Like I'm catching myself saying things that my mom or my brothers would tell me when I was a youngin', being like, nah, you just don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like repeating their shit. And it's like, yeah, like they were right all along.
It's a really good topic, right? Do you think it's us maturing, or do you think it's really like that design for living that we adapted through the program?
Or
do you think it's a mixture of both?
It's probably a mixture of both, right? Because like I mean, how many times have you heard it too? It's like, you know, if everyone, normal people and addicts, worked a 12-step program, you solve world peace,
mm-hmm.
right? But they're normal, so they're more aware of their actions, their behaviors, their shortcomings.
Yeah.
Where we're so selfed up and selfish that I need to read a book and
mm-hmm.
have someone guide me through to remind me, hey,
mm-hmm.
right?
Or just talk with like-minded people.
Yeah. So it's like I think it's a combination of both, and it's just like that shit that I thought was corny isn't.
Yeah.
And like even if it is, like I'm all in.
So be it.
Yeah,
then
right?
whatever. Call me corny.
Seriously.
It is what it is because like my life is full today.
Yeah. And like even that, dude, saying my life is full or like life beyond my wildest dreams, like it's so much more than that, man. Right? Like it's crazy. You know, getting through the surgeries, getting through some of the things I've went through
mm-hmm.
In sobriety, losing people, right? Still being in active addiction and just being a complete scumbag to the people I care and love about the most. And now having like being removed from that and then like thinking like, it's just wild. Like I don't deserve this. I don't deserve Chris Woods to hit me up and be like, hey man, can you help me out?
Yeah.
Right? Like no one wanted me around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They did everything they could to keep me out. Now all of a sudden I'm married. My family wants me around. I'm about to be a dad. Life beyond my wildest dreams.
It's such a wild thing because like a life beyond my wildest dreams was nothing of what I currently have. You know what I mean? A life beyond my wildest dreams, we say that I would have sold myself short, but it's like, it was all materialistic shit.
Yep.
Stuff that means nothing.
Nothing.
You know, it's all stuff that for all things considered, just like, we're just like shiny shit.
Yeah.
That just stuff that like I thought looked cool. There's still some of that stuff that I might think I want, but turns out like we can get some of that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even fucking want it. I don't want it. I just want freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom from like this, you know what I mean? And turns out like when we do stuff like this or when we are active in our recovery, like we have that, a life beyond our wildest dreams, right? Which is, I talked about it, right? Like being present with my daughters, right? When they were first born, right? Or being present with them today. Like that is something I never wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
I never even thought about shit like that. I just wanted to stop withdrawal.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say to there's thousands of people listening to this. Anything else you want to say before we shut it down?
I don't think so, man. Just thank you again for having me out, man. I think I love what you're doing. I think, you know, you're definitely an inspiration. I mean, this is a great setup, dude. You brought in some great guests and just yourself, man. Looking how far you've come, right? And what, this is episode 8?
Yeah,
and like I told you weeks ago, each episode just gets better and better and better. And it's not just like, that's no shot at like the guest before from episode 1 to 4 or 5, like whatever it is. It's just like your comfortability.
Yeah.
Like, so like, dude, shout out to you too, man. You're killing it. You're doing very well here.
I struggle. I mean, like, you know, what was it called? What is it? The imposter syndrome? right? So I struggle with like how much I actually want to be myself, right? Like I caught myself a few times during this episode of like us just being boys, like in the gym, and I'm like, I got to stay on fucking topic. You know what I mean? I got to stay. Like even like me cutting you off, I'm like, fuck, dude. Like we're here, we're not at the gym. You know?
Yeah, but I think it's also too like I can't say it, the
Authenticity.
yeah,
Yep.
of like the chemistry between you and your guest, or just like the flow of the conversation, right? Like I remember when you were kind of feared up when you first wanted to do this, you had an idea, right? But you were also having doubts in the sense like, well, like what direction do I go in? And I'm like, dude, if you think about it, like I don't know if you watch a lot of sci like podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
but like at night that's like my go-to to fall asleep.
Pain with a purpose.
Yeah, Pain with a Purpose, or like all those big heavy hitters, right? Whether it's Rogan, Two Bears, the sports ones, Pat McCaffrey, like whatever. It's like in the beginning, if you see the earlier stuff, they're just trying to figure it out. They're just having conversations, and then you just see where it goes.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure by next season or in the next few episodes, you'll figure out the avenue and how to maneuver. And,
Yeah.
you know, like you're still learning as you go too. And like, dude, you're like, I told you a few weeks ago, I hit you up and I was like, bro, better and better each week.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're going to constantly or continue to grow because you are showing a passion into this, right? You are dedicated. You're talented.
I appreciate it.
I think sky's the limit with this, man. I think you're really doing some good shit here, man, for real.
Definitely appreciate it.
And you've gotten some studs.
Yeah, Steve Brown. Finally got him out.
I wouldn't go that far, but the first 7 before me, oh, buddy.
Well, listen, dude, it's not just
ones.
because like, and we're going over at this point, but it really doesn't matter because it's my fucking podcast. Like I wouldn't just ask you because you're close to me. You know what I mean? Like you have a story to tell. You went through a ton of pain, right? Even in sobriety. But that's also like a reason why the first 7 were on here, right? Like I'm not just asking anybody, not that anybody could be on here, right? But like there's definitely a message I'm trying to portray on this, you know? Not only somebody that's in recovery, but like, what is the purpose, right? Like your purpose could have stopped when you got the surgery, right? Like your purpose it could have been very easy for you to have been like, I went through a serious surgery, you know? It could have stopped when you relapsed the first time or the second time or the third time, or like when we met you or when I met you, you know? So there's definitely a message that I'm trying to portray here. That like recovery's not a jail sentence. We can have a fucking ball.
And like, not to like keep going, right? But like I love this shit, right? But like, it's not, but I remember like being in treatment, whether it was the second, third, fourth, fifth time, whatever it was, and thinking that like getting 30, 60, 90 days was huge. Like it was like unreachable. Right. And like to think like, you know, like I'm never going to have what I have today. Right. And thinking like it was so like, it seems like it was forever ago, but when I really think about it, like 10 years ago, man. Right. Like 10 years ago, that's not that long ago.
It's also a fucking lifetime ago.
Yeah, right? Like looking back, but it's weird because I remember like yesterday, like I never thought in a million years, but like when you're in it and you're so lost in the sauce, and then even those first few weeks when you're in treatment, or even the first few weeks outside of treatment, you're still lost in the sauce trying to figure it out. But like you feel like it's just so dark. Because you're literally starting over, and like you just have to keep going, man. It gets so much better. It really does. Like I wish I would have taken the advice. You know, who knows where? Like
the sky's the limit, right? Like we have a mutual friend, Darnell, right, where he says his tagline. It's great too, and I wish I came up with it. I hate him for having it because it's so good, right? It's only up from here. And he'll be on the podcast at some point. But how true is that, right? No matter what the fuck you're going through, whether it's day 1 of sobriety or day 4,000 of recovery, right? And you're just in a dark fucking place. It's only up from here, right? It's all about perception.
It really is, man. It really is. Once I was able to have that shift, right? And I don't know when it happened, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't woe is me anymore. It wasn't like I started to finally, you know, see my role. And I was just like, all right.
Yeah.
I know this way sucks, right? Like we know where this is going to take me. Like Darnell, right? It's only up from here.
Yeah.
Why not? What's the worst that's going to happen? My life's going to get better.
Yeah.
But also, too, though, I remember one of my fears, too, was like being successful. I'm so used to failure. I was so used to failure, so used to disappointing people that what does it look like when I start succeeding? When I start proving people wrong or just start doing the right thing? Like, what does that look like? Like, what does Steve Brown look like then? Right? Because you get so used to disappointing people and doing exactly what they think you're going to do that I was so scared to like, what does it look like when I choose to do the right thing? When I actually put in some effort?
Yep. I mean, brother, we could talk forever.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we could talk about like fucking fear of being successful, fear of being unsuccessful, fear of losing my sobriety, fear of getting sober. Like, I mean, dude, think about when you got sober, dude. It was scared of my own fucking skin.
Yeah.
You know, scared of getting a goddamn job, right? Or being like an actual like good employee.
Yeah.
God forbid they give me a responsibility there.
Yeah.
Like then I actually got to show up. Whatever. So with that, we'll shut it down. I really do appreciate you coming out for the second time. You know, I meant well the first time. I did. But much like you see in real time, like I got no clue what I'm doing. I'm still learning, right?
Yeah. You're growing though, man. Like I said, dude, you're definitely heading in the right direction for sure, bro.
Yeah. We're trying. So with that, I'll plug it in on the backside too, right? So if you like what we have to say, Instagram, Pain W Purpose, YouTube, Pain with a Purpose Podcast, and Apple and Spotify, Pain with a Purpose Podcast. If you could leave us a review if you're listening, right? It definitely goes a long way, right? We appreciate the support. It goes without saying. I mean, it's awesome when like people reach out and they, you know, it's no matter if people are reaching out or not, right? Like it definitely, it's great to hear. So yeah, we will see you next week. Thank you again.
Thank you, bro.
And with that, that's all we got.